we're all born to love ourselves. We just kind of got conditioned to not focus on ourselves and to focus on caring for others. As moms, of course, that's wonderful to care and love for others, but we can't forget ourselves. Hello and welcome back to Holistic Mama Speaks, the podcast Season 2. I am your host, Carrie Marie Vaughn, and I'm just so excited to continue our journey together towards holistic living, wellness, and abundance. Wow. In Season 2, we are just going to be diving deeper into a variety of different topics related to natural health, mindful living, wealth and abundance, and even conscious parenting. I'm just so excited. And I will be featuring expert guests who will share their knowledge and experience with us. So many amazing people, some returning guests from Season 1 and some new guests. I will also be answering listener questions and addressing some common concerns related to holistic living. And you can actually submit your questions by going to holisticmamaspeaks.com/ask. ASK. My goal is to provide you with practical tips and inspiration that you can incorporate into your own life. Whether you are a seasoned holistic living enthusiast like some people, or if you are just starting out on this journey, there is just something for everyone along the way. So I'm just happy to have you here in the Season 2 of Holistic Mama Speaks. And just as a side note, by listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this as medical advice or to treat a medical condition. You can visit holisticmamaspeaks.com to find the full disclaimer. So sit back, relax, and let's explore a world of holistic living and abundance together. Are you a mom who's struggling to balance taking care of loved ones while also taking care of yourself? It's a very common challenge, but there is actually a simple solution: daily affirmations. In Mom Mantras, the daily affirmation guide for mothers of all kinds, you'll find powerful affirmations and mantras that will help you improve your health, happiness, and mindset. Whether you are a biological mom, an adoptive mom, a stepmom, a pet mom, a motherly figure, this book is for you. Read these mantras in the morning, before bed, really anytime throughout the day to uplift your spirits and to stay focused on what matters most. Visit mommantras.com to get your own copy and to start living a more intentional, purposeful life. Hello and welcome back to Holistic Mama Speaks. I am your host, Carrie Marie Vaughn, and I am joined today by several lovely ladies. I have Stacy, I have Tina, I have Melissa, and I have Michelle. Oh my goodness, it's so amazing having all of you lovely ladies here. So I'm going to have you go around the room and introduce yourself and let everyone know what it is that you're doing to help people. So I'm going to start with you, Stacy, since you are to my left.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm Stacy Every, and I offer coaching services in Western Massachusetts. And I'd say most of the people I work with are struggling with connection. They feel disconnected from themselves, their own sense of purpose, and often feel like they don't have a lot of agency in their lives. And I incorporate somatic body awareness practices to help identify and break old habits and conditioning and limiting beliefs, and help them gain new awareness about themselves and actually let go of the old conditioning and old beliefs and bring in nourishing, healthy perspectives on themselves and their own capabilities.
Awesome. Well, thank you for being here.
Thanks.
And Tina, I'm going to pass it on over to you.
Hey, I'm Tina Clarke. I'm a shamanic energy healer in the Charleston, South Carolina area. My business is Stargazing Angel. And I work with a lot of people who feel stuck or feeling anxious or are suffering from chronic pain. So I get them unstuck with energy healing most of the time and a lot of intuitive counseling.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for being back on again. And Melissa, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you. I am Melissa Lizette. I am the founder of Barefoot Soul, and I am what I'd say is a soul guide and mentor. And I help folks through my own signature program of using gem essences and the Akashic Records, get to the root of things, right? So whether that's chronic physical pain, whether that is being stuck, in certain parts of our life, but really bringing, the 5D down into the body so that we can actually manifest it here in our present reality.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you for being here. And Michelle, I will go ahead and have you introduce yourself.
Hey everyone, Michelle Vande Hey with Light of Love Coaching. I'm in Wisconsin. I work virtually, so all over the world, and I help mission-driven and visionary leaders to let go of overgiving and overwhelm and help them to really relieve that feeling of exhaustion, especially with like physical, mental, and emotional exhaustion from overgiving to the people that they're trying to serve. And I do that through holistic life coaching and trauma sensitive yoga.
Awesome. Well, so glad to have all of you here. And today we're going to be talking about how to build self-confidence and self-love. And I just love that because, that's just such a huge, like a core for how we can handle everything else that comes at us in life. Because if we don't have a real true self-love for ourselves and self-confidence, it's hard to go through everyday life. It's hard to have interactions and relationships with people. It's hard to be in work environments or leadership roles with all of that going on if you don't really love yourself or you don't have true self-confidence. And so I would love to kind of open up the floor and chat about this a little bit as far as maybe some things that you do either for yourself or with some of the clients that you work with to help them gain a sense of self-love and self-confidence.
Well, I've been told that I'm the self-care queen. So I think self-care is self-love, and we're not brought up to take care of ourselves or love ourselves. The focus is especially for moms to take care of everybody else. And it's really important to fill our own cup. And so I spend a lot of time, and I recommend my clients the same, anything from massages to Reiki healing to sitting out in nature to meditation and doing things that make you happy, riding your bike. I love to ride my bike, makes me feel like a kid again. So to remember what those things are, especially if you don't know, look back into your childhood, what you enjoyed doing then, and you'll still enjoy doing it now.
That's awesome. I love those tips. And I love that you mentioned, getting out into nature because I find it so healing. And it does bring back memories of just playing outside as a kid, that kind of thing. And that really brings back, because we're all born to love ourselves, we just kind of got conditioned to not focus on ourselves and to focus on caring for others. As moms, of course, that's wonderful to care and love for others, but we can't forget ourselves too. Who else would like to chat about this a little bit?
Yeah, I'd love to jump backwards from that. Actually, the idea of taking care of the self and nourishing the self and how it's not taught in culture. And I think a piece that the big picture piece is how we don't often have any sense of self to begin with. I think the idea, like, self is the place to start from, and like all the practices you mentioned, Tina, are all about getting more in touch with the body and being in the present moment, and how we spend most of our time. We're all kind of in that survival response of stress when we're just thinking about what needs doing, and we're not given a chance to slow down because of modern life. And so I guess I don't know if I have a tip. I wanted to talk about the context a little bit, about, because we need to take care of ourselves, and it's not like it's just us that's creating a situation that we have to manage, right? There's like the systemic pressures on all of us to earn a living and take care of everyone, like you're saying. And as women, I think particularly, there's like lots of caregiving requirements placed on us, which just takes us further and further away from being in presence and being, with able to even be in connection to any kind of self that we have. So, like you mentioned, meditation and all of those, and like for me, that's the core is engaging in practices that bring us to presence and awareness of where we are in space and what's going on in the body and what emotions are present, and allowing those. Like self-care to me is like allowing ourselves to be feeling our feelings and witnessing ourselves and having self-compassion. And I think that's huge. Just having self-compassion is a jumping off point for everything else.
I want to bring up the subject of power around that, because I think a lot has to do with also we've given a lot of our power away, and therefore we're not making the decisions that would be beneficial for us to make, right, in our own good in order to build the self-love and the self-confidence. So I think, and we're taught that, we're conditioned that, we've been given a very distorted definition of what power is, and I've just found recently, like among a lot of my clients, that's been a very present topic. How do we reclaim that power within ourselves, and what does that look like even? Is that my boundary? And is that boundary just made out of love for myself, right? It has nothing to do with somebody else, right? It's like, how much can I love myself in order to, and I don't want to say create a boundary like we're creating a barrier, more like, what's my capacity here? What am I actually able to do? What am I able to offer? What does that look like? And what does that feel like to me? And so owning that power and owning our own agency, because we all have free will. So a lot of times we feel like we found ourselves in a situation, right? And it's like, yes, due to all of the choices that we've made, and a lot of times it's not coming from a place of personal power. It's coming from a place of shoulds, woulds, caregiving, have tos, all the other reasons that have nothing to do with our own love of self. So I feel like that's a vital piece that I wanted to mention.
Yeah, so true. Very, very true.
Being
moms.
A self-care boundary is saying no, and how it's hard for us to say no.
Yeah.
that's an expression of power, just like you're talking about, and a loving boundary to ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And right along the lines that everyone has been speaking on is oftentimes I feel like my first job with my clients, and usually it's before they even become clients, is helping them to give themselves permission to take care of themselves. Because so often as women, there's like that guilt of like feeling like, oh, I don't deserve to be taken care of. Or if I'm taking care of myself, that means that I'm taking away from someone else, and helping to give themselves permission to say, when you're taking care of yourself, you're not taking away from anyone else, and you're actually able to, when you do show up for them, to show up as more as your authentic self, and to really be who you are, and be more loving and caring, because of how you're caring for yourself, you're able to care for others. And two, I work with a lot of people who've gone through trauma, and so talking about like power and sense of agency too, is like oftentimes that experience that you've been through, if you've been through some sort of trauma, can make you feel like that guilt and that shame around taking care of yourself. And so being able to like let down or let go of those walls of saying like, I can't do this, or I don't deserve it, because everyone deserves to be taken care of. Yeah,
absolutely. And, something I've found with working with people is a lot of the times it comes from, when they don't really feel loving or confident about themselves, like toward themselves, that it has to do with there's something that's lingering where they don't feel worthy of that love. And it's so crazy because it's ourselves. We should feel so worthy of loving ourselves. But for some reason, there's that lack of self-worth that is kind of this lingering thing in the background. And and a lot of people have that and don't realize it because it stemmed from something that happened to them in their childhood. And like you were saying about trauma or something like that, or, now being in the role of being a mother and caring for others, you kind of lose that sense of who you are as yourself. And you just kind of become this caregiver motherly role, and don't feel worthy of self-care, self-love. And from that, you don't have the confidence to go about everything. One tip that I like to give to people, because this was something that I had to do myself when I found myself not feeling worthy of different things in my life, is to every morning write down 3 self-worth statements. And it could be, I am worthy of blank because blank. And you have to fill that in. It's hard, and it also brings tears, but it's one of those things that you have to do to force yourself to find out, why is it that you're really loved? And so one of the, or loved, or, whatever it may be. So it could be, I am worthy of unconditional love because I love with my whole heart, or anything like that. You can fill in the blank with whatever you want. But if you write those down every single morning, and some mornings it might be the same, but I found that was super powerful and helpful for me. And it's also helped a lot of people who I have suggested that to as well. And it does bring about all these thoughts and feelings that you didn't even know were there. And of course, I love also, saying different affirmations around that as well, because, I'm a big person on affirmations. I wrote a book about it. And, so the affirmations, I feel like, are super important too, to kind of reiterate that love and that self-worth and all of those important things about you as a person, because we are so important, and we have so much to give, and we can be confident about who we are. So do any of you ladies have any other little tips that you like to share, as far as maybe some things that people can do in their everyday life, similar to some of the tips that I've shared, some things that they can do, going about their day? Let's just say it's a busy mom. She's having a crazy, hectic day. What are some things to remind her to love herself, and that she can be confident in maybe saying no to things that she's asked, or any other situation that she is encountering throughout her day?
Just wanted to add in one thing. I don't know if it's quite a tip, but just about not aligning our worthiness around loving ourselves with doing a thing. Right? Like we're worthy because we exist, period. Right? And so just remembering that even. And one thing that I also do is like sitting and, what does love feel like in my body? What does love for self feel like in my body? And of course, we don't always have maybe the time, right, for running around like crazy. But if there's a few minutes in the morning, a few minutes at night, whatever it is, like I have 2 minutes right now, can I take some deep breaths and like feel into what does love feel like, and what is true for me, right, in my body, in order to then act from that place.
I like that.
I would say, as far as tips go, I have 2. One that came to mind when you were talking, Carrie, was I have this I am fabulous sheet that I give to my clients, and it says I am fabulous, and then there's like 50 blank spots for it. And so coming up with 50 different reasons as to why you are fabulous, and what inevitably usually happens. And so usually it's like, okay, here's your homework, and in a week, I want you to come up with 50 reasons why you're fabulous. And what usually happens is like the first maybe 10, 12 are relatively easy to kind of come by, but then it's like all of a sudden there gets to be the stuck point. But then when you get to that stuck point, it offers the opportunity for you to dig a little bit deeper as to different reasons that you're fabulous, and gives you this like permission to like not just talk about surface level things as to why you're so fabulous. So that can be one thing. The other thing that I do is I do this like for my business and for my family, is like either you can call it like a joy jar or a gratitude jar or like a celebration jar. And you can do it whatever frequency you want, but I like to do it at least once a week. You could do it once a day on like reflecting on like something that you want to celebrate for the day. And the beauty of this is that you put it in there, and then when you're struggling, when you're having one of those like days as a mom that you're just like, oh my gosh, like when you're feeling down, like, oh my, I'm a bad mom, and you're telling yourself all these things, then you can go to this celebration jar, pick something out, and remind yourself, like, of how just amazing you are. And so you can use that and you can use it with your kids and all that kind of stuff too. So we do one with our family, and then I do one for my business too. So it's kind of a fun way. And if you have a fun jar and fun colored paper, it can look kind of pretty too. So
That's awesome. We have one at our house too.
yeah.
Call it our blessings jar.
Yeah, there you go.
I have some practices I do with clients for it's a tip directly related it's related to self-love. So breathing is always, to me, such an important a way to have agency and effect over the body, like something you can do really in the moment, and it's so so productive in calming down the nervous system, which I think there's a lot of times that's what we need the most, is just, can I calm myself? What do I need in this moment to just be more centered and in my body and not letting my brain be scattered everywhere? And one breathing practice I find really quickly useful is you breathe in deeply, and on the out breath, you make a noise, you sigh, like, ah, and do it 3 or 4 times. And that's actually often all you need to do it in order to feel that sense of being soothed. And then once in that soothed place, I like to have clients do is to take a moment to ground, and maybe imagine there's roots, sending some roots into the earth from your feet, and looking around in the space that you're in, being really deeply in the present moment, and just noticing maybe the chittering voices that have been in your head, the ones that are saying you aren't doing enough, you didn't do that right, whatever, and just noticing the voices, and no matter what they're saying, I see you, and sending them compassion and love, and just staying in that for a minute to send compassion and love to all the messages, all the voices, all the stuff that's bubbling up, and just honoring and witnessing all of those impulses and those emotions that are present, because they're all there for a reason, and they all serve us in some way. Even the voices that seem to be destructive are still there for a reason. They served a purpose once. And the more that we are able to be at peace with all our conflicting parts and listen to them, the better we can really love all of us and all our messiness.
I love that. All of our messiness.
I don't really have an exercise, but I think for moms, especially, it's important to ask for help, and also to be real, because I think a lot of moms are like, oh, I'm fine, I'm okay. And you need to have those friends you could be really honest with. And what really helped me as a stay-at-home mom was I was part of the Moms Club, and we would have these play groups, and it was organized by kids' ages. And I remember feeling so relieved that somebody else's 3-year-old acted like my 3-year-old, you know? There was something really comforting about that I wasn't alone. And my 3-year-old acts like this, and so does theirs. So I think, you don't have to do it all yourself. You don't have to be happy all the time, and if you need a break, um, take a break, get a break somehow. With my firstborn, I remember handing her over to my husband when he got home. So, and then I would just go and decompress in the bedroom for like 30 minutes, and then, give you the time you need to rest and take a breather.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Give yourself permission to take time for yourself. Absolutely. I know it's hard to hand over the baby.
I was ready. I was ready. And he was okay with it. He walked through the door, said, here she is, and I just need to take a break. And after that, I was okay. I just need a break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that, finding tools and resources and other people that you can connect with and that works for you, because not everybody is the same and not everybody's going through the same exact things. We're all going through similar things, but we're at different stages in our lives. We've had a different past than other people. Our kids are going through different stages and everything like that, but finding somewhere where you can be part of a community, whether it be online or local, or getting help from a professional, or even just making scheduling time when you can get together with friends is very important, because and that's also a part of loving yourself, is to give yourself that permission, allowing yourself to have that time to do the things that are important and beneficial to you. And if your thing is just sitting quietly by yourself and reading a book or doing a meditation, make sure you're carving out time to do that, because it's one of those things we could just put off, and we're in our busy everyday life, and we don't think to take the time, and then it's all of a sudden at the end of the day and we realize, oh, we never called somebody, or we never took the time to go for that walk that we wanted to, or do our meditation, and now we're completely exhausted and we're going to pass out the second we hit the pillow. And so it's very important to to schedule in and carve out that time, because you are worth it, and you should be loving on yourself and caring for yourself, and in doing so, then you're going to gain the confidence that you need in everyday life. I feel like that comes with it. The confidence almost just like comes along with, once you really start truly loving yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
I love all of these so much. And I feel like support is such a huge thing. And what an act of self-love for yourself to ask for support, right? A lot of us have support and we're not actually allowing it in or asking for it, even though it's right there, because of whatever judgments we've made about ourselves. And as you said, Carrie, it's like the more that we can ask for what it is we need and allow that, the more confident we are. And like, oh, wait, look at this. I am fully supported. Look, I can do this, right? With support also, because we all need support in some sort of way, at different times. So I think that's huge. And I just wanted to mention, kind of similar to what I said before, but just like what does that full body yes and that full body no feel like in your body? Like, where am I making this decision from? Am I making it from a place of like, I just need to make a decision and get this out of my face? Am I making this from a place of like, I don't want to deal with repercussions? Am I making it from a place of fear or have tos? Like where are we making that decision from? A place of like, I love myself so much that this is what needs to happen, because then again, it's like that same muscle. Like, let me practice that act of self-love, and know what's actually true, what is actually a yes for me and what is actually a no.
Yeah. And I like you said, it's a practice, because we're not all perfect. We have to keep practicing. We practice to take care of ourselves every single day. We practice to keep loving ourselves every single day. we practice those muscles every single day. So, it's just like with anything else, think about people who are professional, artists or athletes or musicians. They practice and practice and train and train and train for these things. It's like that with our own bodies. We're like the CEO of ourselves and our own bodies. And so we need to take that practice and make sure that we're taking that time. So anything else to close out before we hop off today? Any other closing words? Bits of advice?
I really liked what Tina brought up about just like finding your community and giving yourself permission to go out and find a community. And maybe like the group that you come across first might not be the right fit for you. I know like one of my favorite groups when my daughter was an infant was a baby wearing group that I found. And back then it might have been a little bit easier to find in-person groups, but it was so beautiful because we were all there just like learning how to wear our babies, right? And so we're all just like learning together, but we also like grew up together too. And we were there for the baby wearing, like that was what brought us there. But then we talked about all the other things that we were going through, and having being able to find a group that you can actually just like be yourself and not feel like you have to be this like perfect person, like you were saying, Carrie, I think is so important to just be able to let yourself be you so you can practice that, so that when you're in situations where people aren't like that, that you can start practicing continuing to be yourself and being confident in like, okay, my child is not going to behave how society wants them to behave all the time, and being okay with that. And that's where like when you're taking care of yourself and you know that you're a good mom no matter what, how your kid acts does not reflect whether you're a good or a bad mom. You are an amazing mom no matter what. Then that helps you to build that confidence to know who you are, and that the judgments and things that you get from other people don't affect you as much. But it is that continuous practice to remind yourself that you are loving and deserving no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely. And doing some of these things might seem scary at first when we're not used to stepping into that self-love, or stepping into our confidence as we're like going out in public, or in new groups of people. It might seem scary, but once you actually push past that fear and prove to yourself like, hey, I can do this. I can be myself because I love myself and I know who I am. I can be myself in this situation. Then you're proving to yourself like, hey, I did it. I just pushed past my fear and I was awesome. I rocked it, and then it's like, oh, what else can I do? And then your confidence builds from there, so you might have to do a few scary things at first, a few things that might seem a little out of your comfort zone because you're not used to standing up for yourself. You're not used to caring for yourself, especially if you've kind of gotten, put yourself on the back burner because you've put everybody else in your life on, in the front, and, their needs come first. But instead, now that you're starting to step into this new, I'm going to love on myself because I am important. And it kind of goes back to that. I'm sure you've all heard this before about how, if you relate this to the woman on the plane, or men, I guess there's men too, they're showing you, okay, put the mask on yourself before you help other people put the oxygen mask on, because you yourself is important. You can't be helping others if you can't breathe, right? So it's like that. If you're not loving on yourself, how are you going to better love and serve and care for your family?
I just think one final thing is I think we often don't sit and think about what resources we do have. And really and it's actually something I recommend, is just make a list of all the ways in which all the people in our lives that are supportive, maybe the practices we already have that are supportive, finding those connections that we can be mutually beneficial, having accountability partners, and just remembering in the same vein of, asking for help and being present with what we have available to us, to remember we're not alone. And there's always people there for us. And even when we feel like we're isolated and unable to manage, there's always a resource available if we sit and think about what's available in our lives, and to always have that in mind.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that if you were to reach out to even like your local chamber of commerce, they might even know about different groups that get together that you might not even know existed, or different churches, or, there's probably mom groups. I think that there's a website called Meetup or something where you could like search for different things in your area. So there's other things out there. Even if you feel like you're alone, you're not alone. There's neighborhood groups. There's so many different kinds of groups. And the cool thing is some of those are very specific to a kind of interest as well. Let's just say you love to knit, or you're into, this is a funny story. I was out to dinner one time and we all walked in and there was a whole table full of people, a giant table full of people holding this giant head. They all had these big heads of this man. He was an actor. Well, they all met through this meetup things. People came from all different states to meet up because they were fans of this one actor. So they all were getting together for dinner, and they had other activities planned over a few days worth of time. And so that was their dinner, was to go out with giant heads of him. So if you are into an actor, there's probably a meetup group for that as well. So it doesn't matter what your interests are, but I would say connect with some other people in your area, or even virtually, if that's the only way that works for you, if you are kind of secluded in your location, your physical location, because you're not in this alone. And there's so many tools and resources available, like you were saying. Just start listing them out. Who do you know? What's in your area? You'll be surprised at all the things you come up with, I'm sure. So thank you so much for your time and all of your knowledge and tips, ladies. This has been amazing. And now there's going to be an amazing group of people who are listening to this that are going to be like, woo, I am confident now. We're helping a whole group of ladies out there. So thank you all so much. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, Carrie.
Thanks, Carrie.
Thanks, Carrie.
Thanks. Bye. Thank you so much for listening. It has been a pleasure being with you today. I hope that you enjoyed this and got some value out of it. If you did, be sure to rate and review on wherever you're listening or watching. And also be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Thank you so much and have a great rest of your day.